I'm very excited to have our author and guest, Toni Ann Johnson, here with us today. And I'm hoping, particularly those of you in the novel class, will have lots of wonderful questions to ask her. So start thinking now. Let me go ahead and give you a short introduction, and then we'll go ahead and get started with today's event. Toni Ann Johnson won the Humanitas Prize and the Christopher Award for her ABC teleplay Ruby Bridges, about a young girl who integrated the New Orleans public school system. She won a second Humanitas Prize for Crown Heights, a film she wrote for Showtime about the 1991 Crown Heights riots. She's written a number of dance-related projects, including the pilot for Save the Last Dance and the feature film Step Up to the Streets. Johnson's short fiction, essays, and articles have appeared in the Los Angeles Times, Hunger Mountain, Soundings Review, the Emerson Review, and others. Her novel, Remedy for a Broken Angel, was nominated for the 2015 NCAACP Image Award for Outstanding Literary Work by a Debut Author. Please join me in welcoming Toni Ann Johnson.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you all for being here, and thank you to the foundation. I didn't know about that, but I should thank them too. I'm really pleased to be here. I don't know if you guys know anything at all about the book, so I'll explain just a little bit. It's a mother-daughter story, and you're going to hear from both of them as well as a couple of other characters, and you'll learn immediately what's the main issue between them at the top of the book. The mother is from Bermuda, and when I read pieces from her point of view, I'm going to sound Bermudian, so don't let that startle you. Okay, so I'm just going to get started. Artie, 2004. 2 months ago, Artie drove home late one night when her husband Kendall wasn't expecting her. She pulled into their driveway behind his road-hogging Escalade and heard his band's CD on the car stereo. She called his name. He didn't answer. She climbed out of her car, zipped her cardigan as her heels clicked up the stone pavers to his open window, and looked in. He wasn't in the driver's seat. A spicy fragrance wafted out the window into her face. Opium, her mother's scent. Sweet notes of jasmine and mandarin tempered with amber threatened to take her someplace she didn't want to go. Artie hadn't seen the monster in years, so she was shocked to find her reclining in the passenger seat with her dress hiked up above her waist. Kendall was upside down, the 6 to her mother's 9, his face buried between her thighs. Artie's a patient now at a swank acute care psychiatric facility in Malibu. For weeks, she's been dazed from the drugs they gave her, but the dosage has been reduced. She's beginning to think more clearly now. She hasn't felt like talking. Despite being one of about 25 residents in this mansion in the Malibu hills, she's enjoying an odd sort of solitude. It's not so bad being alone inside her head and being able to tune everyone out, even Kendall to some degree, and they hope. He's here again, outside. She won't see him, speak to him, or read his letters or emails, so he appears in the courtyard below the day room window and serenades her with his saxophone, Bicho. His Gucci loafer-wearing big feet trample the yellow gazanias, and his white shirt bears sweaty underarms. Notes trill out in cascading wails. Kendall is a jazz musician, a tenor player. 27 years old, and he's the recent recipient of a MacArthur Foundation Genius Grant for composition. Genius, please. His band has recorded 3 CDs with Verve Records, and he composed and produced most of the songs. He thinks he's the shit. Artie used to think so too, but now she hates the sight of his sweaty ass down there blowing his damn horn. Pinchy perro motherfucker. Might as well be whacking off. Yet she can't keep her eyes off of him for more than a few minutes. Still drawn to this idiot she used to love like crazy. but doesn't want to anymore. When she does let her eyes wander, she can tell by the light that it's late afternoon. The sun bounces off the Spanish-style building and dances onto Kendall's sax. It kisses his face and lights him up like a celestial being. Why is it, she wonders, that no matter where he goes or what foul shit he does, there's always light around him? It's as if he has an invisible gaffer shining him up like a movie star. It's so unfair. If I had my camera, she thinks, I'd shoot his ass right now and catch that glow. The long lens would throw the jacarandas out of focus in the background. The flare would shine around his face like a halo. Cool beans. She's giddy, imagining it. Then she realizes, he planned this. He knew damn well I wouldn't be able to resist the composition, the light, the contrast, and he thinks he can engage her, as he always has. And he almost did. Makes her feel too easy, like a trite piece of music he can read with his eyes closed and play with no effort. Why hasn't he moved on to a more challenging piece? That's what he wanted, right? He went out and found himself a new piece of complicated ass. So why does he keep coming around here messing with me? She never had a single picture of the woman holding or hugging her. No memory of being hugged or held by the puta either. Not one. Years before the night that triggered Artie's unraveling, her mother left her. She also left a photo album that archived a life with the husband and child she abandoned. 12-year-old Artie clutched the album as she sat at the kitchen table and watched her father Rico chopping garlic for the black beans he was preparing. But Poppy, my friend's dad left when she was little, and she told me that moms don't leave their kids. Only dads do. Poppy bit his lip and looked out the barred window that faced the fire escape. Well, mija, sometimes that's not true. Sometimes mommies have problems. Artie stared at the floor, squeezed the photo album to her chest, and banged the heel of her sneaker into the worn linoleum. I never heard of any mommies who left, except mine. The album was one of the only things Artie had left after Poppy got rid of almost everything that would remind them of Serena. Purple velvet on the outside, it had a lock like a diary, but there was no key and the lock was broken anyway. It was purchased in a junky antique shop on 10th Street in the East Village. Artie was with her mother the day she bought it. She was in the 5th grade at PS 41. It was just days after she completed a school project wherein she took pictures of her parents at work. Serena met her outside of school on West 11th Street, holding the envelope of newly developed prints. She looked like a movie star in a white dress, short black jacket, and red lipstick. As Artie padded up to her, lugging her backpack, Serena's gleaming grin was a surprise. "You have the eye of an artist," she exclaimed. "These are brilliant." As they walked to the east side, Serena thumbed through the photos. "I especially like the way you frame me between the microphone and the curtain. And here, where I'm blowing the audience a kiss, I quite like how the movement in my face draws the eye in." After Serena bought Artie the album, she gave her a shoebox full of old snapshots to include with the new ones, and she encouraged her to keep shooting. Artie enjoyed poring through the images of her parents when they were young and of herself when she was little. It was her history. It belonged to her, and she belonged to it, and she liked that. She told herself, there are no pictures of me in my mother's arms because she was always the one taking the photos. Poppy probably never offered. But wouldn't Serena want a picture of herself with her baby? Wouldn't she ask someone to take one? The last photo Artie put in the album is the only one that was developed after Serena left. She took it shortly before her 12th birthday. She and Poppy drove to Coney Island Beach in their boxy BMW 2002 like they did many Saturdays with Mingus, their black lab. Those beach days gave Artie and Mingus a chance to run free and play. Their 2-bedroom apartment on East 13th Street was cramped, and she wasn't even allowed to walk Mingus by herself outside. Too many junkies, hookers, and other hustlers parading between 1st and 2nd Avenues. That day, Poppy forgot that Serena was expecting him back no later than 5:30 p.m. They were going to a cocktail party at B. Smith's restaurant for the release of Lionel Hampton's biography. When Artie and Rico came home 2.5 hours after the party was supposed to have begun, her mother was wearing too much perfume, a spaghetti-strapped black dress, and a frown. She stood up at the kitchen table. "You promised me, then you don't show? Huh?" Rico crossed to the refrigerator. "Ham, tonight was my night. I need to be out meeting the right people, Rico." "Aye." He turned, popping open a beer. "Sorry, I'll get ready." Serena was always scowling about something, but Artie thought her mother was a spectacular beauty. She was special because she was from someplace exotic. Artie assumed Bermuda was exotic, though she'd never actually been there. Her father was black and Puerto Rican, which didn't count as special because he was born right uptown in Harlem Hospital. Serena was the color of gold and luminous like it too. She had almond-shaped eyes and high cheekbones. Her long hair was usually pulled back in a braid or bun. Her body was lean like a dancer's. She glowered at Rico standing across the room sipping his beer. Artie snapped a photo of her with the camera she received early for her birthday. "Get out of my face, Artemisa!" Get was Gap because Serena sometimes pronounced E's like A's. Sometimes she pronounced her W's like V's and her V's like W's too. Mingus scooted under the kitchen table. Artie had a pee, so getting out of her mother's face was no problem. As Serena chewed Rico out in the kitchen, Artie discovered the first sight of her menstrual blood. She'd been waiting for this forever. Her 2 best friends at school already had theirs, and she'd worried something was wrong with her because it was taking so long. She sat on the toilet and waited for her mother to stop yelling. "I know you'd like to think you're some kind of super daddy, but it's tired, Rico. And you best catch yourself because it's obvious you're using her to avoid something." "Ay, Dios mío," Poppy groaned. "I said I was sorry, Mommy." "It's not that late. We can still go. I sent the sitter home already." "Artie can stay by herself for a couple of hours. She's a little girl." "She's a young lady." "Oh, I see. Is she? That why you've been treating her like the wife lately? Going on dates?" "Woman, what the hell are you talking about now?" "I sat here for days like a fool waiting for you." "You should have gone ahead." "By myself? Since when? When did you start wanting me to go places without you, Rico?" It was silent. Then Artie heard a thud. Someone threw something against the wall, probably Serena. A door slammed, their bedroom, but Serena was still in the kitchen. Artie could hear her crying. She was afraid to open the bathroom door. It opened into the kitchen, but she was bleeding. "Mommy?" Serena was sitting at the table now with her head down. She'd taken her thick hair out and both her hands were hidden in it, scratching her scalp. "Please don't badger me now," she said without looking up. "Please." "But, Mommy, you're getting on my last drop of nerve, girl." "Yes, but," Serena's head sprang up. "Did you hear me, you waffless pain in the ass?" Waffless. Worthless. Artie wanted to ask her mother to please not call her that, but the last time she did, Serena slapped her. She took a step back and bit her bottom lip. Mingus cowered under the table. Rico flew into the room. "Don't talk to my kid like that." "Fuck you. She's my kid too." "You better calm down if you want her to stay your kid." "What?" Rico looked at Artie. "Mija, why don't you go take a bath?" "What do you mean by that?" "Just stop it, woman. Chill the hell out, would you please?" He disappeared back into the bedroom. Artie stood there staring at her mother. Serena turned away. "Mommy, sorry to bother you, but..." "Artie, please. I'm sorry, but Flo's here. She finally came to visit me. About time, huh? She called it Flo because that's what Serena called it. Damn it, Flo's back already, she'd say. Serena turned to face Artie. What? Please don't tell Puppy. Let me see your knickers. Artie started to walk back to the bathroom. Right here, right now. Artie stopped. What if Puppy comes in? Serena drew back an open palm. Artie unbuttoned her shorts. She stepped out of them, pulled down her pink cotton panties, and handed them over. There was a reddish-brown stain. Serena's eyes darkened. Splendid. Now I got to go make a run for some flippin' peds. She dropped the panties on the floor, put on the high-heeled shoes she'd flung at the wall earlier, and walked out. The metal security door clanged behind her. Artie was left standing half naked in the kitchen. She bent down to pick up her underwear from the dingy linoleum, but Mingus beat her to it. He was play growling, and the panties were in his mouth. She wanted to hurry and dress before her father came back into the room. Mingus teased her with the underwear. He tried to fake her out, ready to run if she made a move. She knew how it worked, and though Mingy was adept at this game, she went for it. Then her father re-entered. Shit. Half naked, she could feel a trickle of blood oozing down her thigh as Mingus trotted off to his spot in the living room with his nasty new treat. She and Poppy froze for a moment, looking at each other. He closed his eyes, ran both hands through his dark curls, then turned and bumped his elbow into the door frame, rushing back out of the room. He'd seen her naked before when she was little. It was different now. She was different. Poppies weren't supposed to know. Only mummies were supposed to know. This next scene is from Serena's point of view back in 1990, shortly after that last scene. And what's happened in between is Serena got upset with Artie, no surprise. She slapped her in the face in front of Rico. And Rico had just had it, and he slapped her back. And it's the first time in their marriage that he'd ever hit her. And she packs her things and goes uptown to the Bronx to stay with her aunt. 3 weeks later, with no word from her family, Serena carried Annie and Buddy's mail in, along with the grocery bags she picked up for them. She was placing the letters and bills on the parlor table when she noticed her own name on one of the envelopes, and then on another, and another. She sat the grocery bag down. There was an alumni announcement from City College, a royalty check from a jingle she'd recorded, and a letter from her credit card company. Rico had closed the account. Serena let out a moan and collapsed on the stairs. The mantel clock chimed the second quarter. Bling, blang, blang, blong. Bling, blang, blong, blong. She wanted to tell it to shut up. Annie ran in from the kitchen. What is it, love? Auntie, I should have gone back. I thought leaving would make him want me again, but he doesn't. He's moved on. Annie sat beside Serena on the stairs and hugged her. Oh, my poor baby. My poor sweet baby. Serena eased out of her embrace and leaned against the staircase railing. I know you mean Val when you say that, but it doesn't help. Brings back the past. Annie was quiet. Her eyes dulled. She looked past Serena and nodded. Today is so much like that day, Serena said. Annie's eyes returned to her. Shh, darling, shh. She caressed her face. Always unwanted, Serena said. Oh, Ree, that's not true. Tell me again. The way they dump me off like rubbish. Stop, Annie said. Why think of such things? What does it matter now? It's always mattered. It always will. Later, sitting on her bed, Serena wanted to be cuddled like a baby, like she had never been as a small child. She was in her early teens and living with Aunt Annie when she first heard Charles Mingus play the bass and saw his picture on an album cover. He began appearing in her dreams. When she was lonely, she'd curl up on her bed and pretend to be nestled in his arms. She talked to him as she fell asleep. He was husky and smelled of cherry coca pipe tobacco and coconut hair oil. He was a good listener. She needed him now. Facing the wall with her eyes closed, she tried to be completely still, to smell him, hear him, a process of conjuring. She felt his chest against her back, the intervals of his breath. She sensed his arm was on her waist, and they began communicating mind to mind. I was only a little girl, she told him. This time, it might be my fault. But what happened in Barmy wasn't fair. Fair? Baby, don't expect shit to be fair. Sure way to find yourself sick at heart. She felt him shake his head. My mom and Annie's father died when they were in their teens. He was white, from England. Granny Clara was copper-colored, and according to Auntie, she was pleased that my mother, Artemisa, was fairer and more beautiful than Granny was herself. Annie, being honey-colored, was too brown to win favor in the family. Now that's not fair, is it? Mingus asked. Auntie said that my mom did just as she and Granny always planned, married white, and her first 2 children were as white as any truly white children. Only thing that gave away their secret was me, the golden brown baby. Bet you were the prettiest one, too. Phyllis and Brian went to a white school without a problem. According to Auntie, Mother feared that when it was time for me to go, it would threaten the family's status. She told me my daddy didn't like the idea of sending his baby daughter away. Think it was because he loved me? How could he not love his girl? Why did he have to be so weak? She waited for an answer. Mingus only shrugged. He was from an Irish family whose ancestors were bondservants, yet they had the audacity to be bigots. Never met my father's parents. When Phyllis and Brian visited him, I wasn't even invited. Mingus scattered his umbrage. Ooh, wabbity jibbity jibbity babbity obity babbity bibbity boobity weba samaloo, mama, what do we? Ooh, mama. Serena sighed. Annie worked at a dress shop on Front Street. Her godmother had bequeathed her a small house in Paget. With no prospects of a husband, she was happy to inherit a small child, too. I hadn't a clue of the real reason I was being sent away. Watched my mom take every article of clothing from the chest of drawers and closet and each of my toys and books and put them in an antique trunk that belonged to my father's great-grandmother who brought it from Ireland. My parents put me in the car. I sat by myself in the back, and they drove me to Aunt Annie's. When we arrived, I climbed out. The air was thick and smelled like seaweed. The limestone roof gleamed in the sun. Mother said, "You'll be staying here with your auntie. You'll go to school nearby." But why can't I stay home and go to school? Phyllis and Brian don't go away. She didn't answer. How long will I be staying, Mummy? My father's face flushed. He turned and walked away. Mother kissed my cheek and followed my daddy back to the car. I thought they were leaving me because I'd misbehaved. I spilled some preserves on my Sunday clothes the day before that, and a few days before that, I'd eaten some baker's chocolate I wasn't supposed to, and Mother gave me a lashing. Yes, I was naughty sometimes, but no worse than other children. I'll behave, Mother, I promise. She got in the car and Daddy started the engine. Please, don't leave me. My hands balled into fists and beat my own thighs. The car backed out of the dirt road as I ran toward it. Daddy's face looked wet, like he was crying. They were going so fast I couldn't be sure. I sat down in the dusty driveway, like rubbish cast aside, and stayed there till Auntie picked me up. My poor baby, she said. My poor, sweet baby. She carried me inside. This last scene is a little more upbeat. I should warn you that there's some sexual content in this, so if that is disturbing to you, you might want to step out. Serena, 2004. Serena takes a seat at the bar alone. She comes to Hal's, a black-owned watering hole in Venice, for the jazz and people watching on Sunday and Monday nights. Once in a while she sings, but mostly her bumpy's propped on a stool in red lipstick, a dress, and heels. She takes in the musicians, the paintings on the walls, the colorful patrons, and she drinks, of course. This is her spot. Lately, she comes half hoping to run into Rico again. Every jazz musician in town comes through at some point, so she's told. She needs him to listen, to believe her. She didn't know who that guy was. How could she? Before that night, she'd been in LA less than a year's time. She hadn't got round to meeting all the local musicians yet. Hal's was an unsung song. She discovered it only a week earlier when Jamie brought her in for supper. The following visit, she went unescorted and a young man was playing with his quintet. She sat right where she's sitting now and thought the guy and his bandmates were brilliant. Babies too, the lot of them under 30. At the end of their set, they played Carlos Santana's Europa, and Serena went mad, cheering and dancing like some Calla Rupee. She thinks it's just about the sexiest piece of music ever written. One thing she's never been fond of, however, is the song's subtitle, Earth's Cry, Heaven's Smile. What the hell did Santana mean by that? She's decided it means that human suffering amuses God, because it does feel like heaven's having a laugh at her expense, quite often in fact. As she watched the handsome tenor player blow the fat out of one of her favorites, it struck her that he was wearing his sax appeal like a neon sign. Did he look at her and smile? Perhaps it was her imagination, but it appeared as if this sexy guy was playing directly to her. She looked around to see if anyone noticed. No one seemed to recognize her. Must be because she'd had her hair cut short and dyed that very day. Jamie was out doing whatever the flippy does, and she wanted some attention. She put on dangly earrings, a clingy beige knit dress, some painful but spectacular Via Spiga sandals, and fire engine red lip gloss. She wasn't planning to pick anyone up, but she was looking to get her flirt on. He must have announced his name when the set ended, but she was paying her bill and didn't catch it. She still had no notion of who he was when he came and sat beside her and told her she was sexy. She thought she'd like to climb into his young lap and French kiss him, but instead she told him she was old enough to be his mom. Whoa, if you're really that old, you must be aged to perfection, lady, like fine wine. It was a disastrous attempt to be smooth, and yet it was flattering to be hit on by a young, handsome man. She got the feeling he didn't recognize her. Surprising, because while she wasn't exactly a household name, she was undeniably known in the jazz world. The lights were dim at the bar, he just hadn't had a good look. Her hairstyle was different, close cropped now, nearly blonde. She'd also filled out a bit since the last album and since Flo had stopped visiting as frequently. People thought she'd had her girls done, but she hadn't. He was staring straight into them when he asked for her name. Paid no attention when she gave it to him. Something about him reminded her of Rico. Maybe it was his white Gaia Vera, identical to one Rico used to wear. He looked a bit like him too, dark curly hair and black eyes. And like Rico, he was self-absorbed. Talked about himself non-stop for at least 40 minutes while they shared a bottle of Pinot Noir. He banged on about his tour to Japan, his CDs, his publishing, his grant, and his bloody boring success. She couldn't get a word in, so she kept sipping until she found herself considerably smashed. She'd had enough of him by the hour's end, but she'd driven there, and though she didn't live far, she could barely drive sober, so she made the mistake of asking him for a lift home. If only she'd called a cab. Instead of being a gentleman, the wanker felt her up in the car. His fingers tickled her nipples. She stopped him, though she didn't hate it. She thanked him for his interest, but assured him, "I'm far too drunk to properly appreciate this, Ace." He seemed to accept that she parried his advances, and he proceeded to drive her home. But then she wasn't able to properly explain how to get to her flat. They headed down Washington Boulevard, then up Speedway, which was the right street, but it was dark and she was inebriated and she couldn't find the back of her bloody building. After a couple of attempts, he gave up and drove her to his place, which wasn't far. Said he'd go online and look up how to get there. His hand caressed her thigh. "It's okay if you're drunk," he said, and flashed his straight white teeth. Sounded like he really wanted her. It was nice to be desired. While she was trying to remember if she checked her underarms and if any gray hairs might have sprouted since her last bikini wax, she fell asleep. And then suddenly, he was opening her door and trying to coax her out of the seat. Her body longed to stay put. The car was one of those monstrous SUVs. Who knew they were so damn comfortable? He somehow flipped her seat back and she found herself reclining. The sunroof was open. She could see the stars. Then he eased on top of her, buried his face in her bosom, and began sucking one of her breasts. She was stunned. It happened so quickly, like he was in some mad rush. Then he moved down, pulled up her dress, and tugged at her knickers. Furiously, he was giving her a wedgie. He began to look farcical as she grew aggravated, struggling with them. She realized he was trying to rip them. What made him think that was acceptable? They were a scotter. She asked him to stop. Not that she wasn't a wee bit excited for him to proceed with his plans, but she was concerned about those little gray bastards. Jamie didn't seem to mind them, and she was, after all, almost 50. Still, she thought, I'd rather not start early by with geriatric pussy. But then he did manage to get the knickers off without ripping them, and it was too late to worry about what he might find. Hornblowers have exceptionally well-trained tongues. She would have said his name out loud, if only she knew what it was. Startlingly skilled, nimble wanker too. In one smooth move, he shed his trousers and spun his body round so that his below-the-belt business was pointing in her face. Quite convenient and mutually satisfying for about a minute. But then the unthinkable happened. Up came supper. Ghastly. This had never happened before, but she was a bit queasy to begin with, and he was well endowed. Her gag reflex kicked in, and bleh, all over her dress, food mixed with wine, stinking like a fetid puddle in hell. Then she began to sweat profusely. In seconds, she'd be drenched. Christ, she thought, fine time for a bloody hot flash. She heard the guy say, "What the fuck?" Then she looked up and saw someone through the open car window holding a camera. The figure disappeared, came back moments later, and tried repeatedly to smash the windshield with what looked like a tripod. The glass merely cracked, but that was no less terrifying. The figure was a woman, and she was patently intent on killing them. The guy got out the car to restrain her. And only then did Serena realize who she was, and whose he was, and what an utter mess she'd found herself in. Earth's cry, heaven's smile, indeed. The gods, or perhaps the demons, were having a jolly laugh at her expense, and she didn't appreciate the blasted joke. Thank you. That's it. I don't know how it works. Do you guys just ask questions now, or do you have any questions? Sure.
Is it stressful to write so much dysfunction, especially in the first scene that you read with Rico and Serena? Like, how long did that take, and like, how exhausting was it to get it right?
stressful because I feel my way emotionally through it. So, it is stressful. It's hard to say how long that particular scene took. The book was a very long process. It started as a screenplay, and then I rewrote it as a book. And so it's been like many, many years. But that scene, as I recall, was one of the early scenes that I wrote. So I guess it didn't take that long. I came from a very dysfunctional household, so it was kind of normal. It's not normal, but I mean, yeah, it was normal. It was what I knew. So it wasn't really that hard to write it in terms of technically writing it. It was a little sad sometimes and a little, it was a little painful. Some of the events in that scene are things from my own life. These weren't my parents, and I'm not either of those characters, but there are events that happened that I used, and so that was kind of painful, and trying to work through that, that was part of the process, is just sort of trying to get a perspective on those events. And so I don't think it's for sissies to try to write that kind of stuff, because it's not fun in the moment, but it can be sort of cathartic. Yes?
When did you decide to make the narrative in that second scene and that third scene? When did you decide to give Serena's accent to the narrative as well?
Good question. I had never intended to do that. It was my editor. So when I sold the book, my editor wanted Serena to sound more distinct on the page and to sound more Bermudian. I have Bermudian relatives. Their accents are a range. My closest relatives that live in the US, to me, sound like they have a faint English accent. But my Bermudian relatives who live in Bermuda on the island have a similar accent to what you heard. And it's a little bit on the page, but when I did it full out on the page, he was like, oh, okay, then that's going to be too much, because she sounds like a Nazi, because all the V's and so we took some of it out, and so it's not all in there, but because he had me go through that exercise, I had to study the accent. I didn't grow up knowing the accent. I grew up with my grandmother, but she had been living in the country in the US for like 40 years when I was born, so she didn't really have such a pronounced accent, and I couldn't even really hear it, so I had to learn the accent. And so I figured, well, once I learned it, I might as well use it when I go out to read, and I think it just makes her more fun and more distinct, and so that's why. But when you read it, you'll only see like little snippets of it. I think it would be hard to read.
So the narrative in those two scenes is not written in accent, and only the dialogue,
It is written in accent, because the narrative, although it's in third person,
right.
It's third person close,
right.
and it moves very fluidly in and out of whoever the scene's perspective is. And so it's not a typical third person omniscient that's that far. So the voice of the narrative really does mimic the voice of the characters when they're speaking in dialogue. Good question. Any other questions? Hi, Noelle. Good. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you. Noelle is responsible for me being here, so thank you to you.
I was just wondering, how long did it take you to write the novel, and how many drafts did you go through?
I couldn't even tell you how many drafts, but the first incarnation of